The table creaked under its own weight. A single lamp burned low, throwing shadows across the wooden walls. The girl sat stiff, both arms locked around the child, as if the room itself might take her baby away. The rancher sat opposite, elbows on the table, head bent forward. Neither spoke. The only sound was the child's shallow breath and the faint tick of the clock near the door. She shifted in her chair. The blanket slipped a little, showing the child's cheek, pink and damp with sleep. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "Could you pretend to be my papa?" The words landed sharp. The rancher didn't move at first. He raised his head slowly, eyes catching the lamplight, heavy lines carved deep into his face. He said nothing. His silence pressed harder than a no. She bit her lip. "I wouldn't ask if I had anywhere else." He leaned back, chair scraping against the floor. The wood groaned beneath him. Still, no answer. His hand moved to the table, tapping once, a rhythm without meaning. "You think I'm lying," she said. He kept his eyes on the child. "You think I stole her?" No reply. She tightened her hold on the baby, whispering into the soft curls. The child stirred, whimpered, then settled again. "I didn't. She's mine. She's all I've got." The rancher pushed the chair back with one slow shove. He stood, tall in the dim light, and walked to the stove. The scrape of iron broke the silence. He poured himself a cup of coffee gone cold, sipped once and set it down without drinking again. "You hear me?" she asked, voice sharper now. "I'm not lying." He turned back. His boots thudded against the wood floor. He stood behind her, looming but not reaching out. She felt the weight of him there, close enough that his breath touched the crown of her head. The girl's voice trembled. "Please." At last he reached forward, not for her, but for the child. His hands, rough with dirt and callus, slid beneath the blanket. She resisted for a second, then let go. He lifted the baby with the same ease he might lift a log from the pile. His jaw worked as he held the child against his chest. The girl looked up. "Well?" He didn't speak. "You going to say yes?" The rancher rocked the child once, slow and steady. The baby opened its mouth and let out a half-cry before pressing into his shoulder. "Say something," she said. Still no words, only the faint sound of the baby's breath against him. She slammed her palm on the table. "I asked you plain." The lamp flickered. He shifted the child in his arms, wrapped the blanket tighter, and walked to the far wall. His silence followed him like a shadow. "You can't just take her without answering," she said. He turned then, eyes hard. "What would you want me to say?" Her breath caught. She hadn't expected him to speak at all. "Say yes," she whispered. "And if I can't?" "Then you'll leave me out there, alone. That's what you'll do." The rancher's jaw tightened. He studied the child, not her. "You've lost someone before," she said, voice softening. "I can see it. You know what it feels like." His shoulders stiffened. "You know what silence costs." He didn't answer. The baby squirmed, fists pressing out from the blanket. The rancher adjusted again, gentler this time. "You're holding her like you already said yes," the girl whispered. He looked at her finally. The lamp caught the lines in his face, deep with years of grit and grief. "Say it," she pressed, just once. His lips parted, but no sound came. Instead, he walked back toward the table, lowering himself into the chair with the baby still in his arms. He sat opposite her again, eyes locked on the small bundle. She leaned forward. "Please." The baby whimpered. The rancher hushed it with a soundless motion of his hand. The girl's eyes filled. "Do you know what they'll do if they find us here?" she asked. He didn't respond. "They'll take her. They'll take me. And you'll be left with nothing but this silence you carry around like it's worth something." The rancher looked down. His thumb brushed the child's cheek, a gesture so small it barely showed. "Say yes," she begged. "If not for me, for her." The bobby let out a sharp cry then, cutting through the house. The rancher's eyes closed for a moment. When he opened them, he still didn't speak. The girl rose from her chair. She circled the table, hands trembling, and crouched beside him. Her face was close to his, voice hushed. "Don't let her grow up without a name. Don't let her grow up without someone to hold her." He exhaled, slow. The words still refused to come. Instead, he shifted the baby, cradling her against him with both arms, solid and certain. The girl's tears fell, streaking down her face. "That's your answer, isn't it?" He didn't deny it. The child's cries softened, fading into small breaths. The girl pressed her forehead against the table edge, silent herself now. Minutes stretched. The clock ticked steady. Outside, the night stayed still, no sound but wind against the shutters. Finally, the rancher leaned forward, resting the baby gently in the crook of his arm. He glanced at the girl, eyes locked with hers, then back at the child. His silence grew heavier, but it carried something else, an answer she had already taken. She whispered again, weaker this time. "Could you pretend?" The rancher shifted the blanket, brushing the child's tiny hand with his finger. His silence was not empty now. It was binding. The girl sat back slowly, her body sagging with relief. She wiped her eyes and pulled her chair closer, almost touching his. The lamp flickered once more, and in the stillness that followed, the rancher kept his arms around the child, as if nothing else in the world could move him. The girl watched him, and though no word was spoken, she knew the answer was yes. The knock rattled the boards before the sky turned pale. It wasn't gentle. It was hard, slow, and steady, like someone who knew no one inside had a choice. The girl jolted upright from the chair where she had dozed, the child pressed to her chest. The rancher was already standing, his hand flat on the table, eyes narrowed at the door. The knock came again, 3 sharp blows, then a pause. "Rancher," a voice called, drawn out, lazy, but with iron underneath. The girl's grip on the child tightened. She whispered, "Who is it?" He didn't answer. He walked to the door, boots dragging across the wood, and pulled it open slow. The sheriff filled the frame, hat low, badge glinting in the faint light, spurs clinking as he stepped onto the porch. He didn't ask to come in. He simply leaned his weight against the doorframe and stared past the rancher into the dim house. "You keepin' visitors these days?" the sheriff asked. The rancher's jaw clenched. "Depends who's asking." The sheriff smirked. "You know who's asking." The girl stayed still, pressing the baby deeper against her chest. She knew his voice without seeing his face. She rocked the child gently, praying it wouldn't cry. The sheriff shifted, boots scraping. "Word is, there's a girl with a child. Folks say she doesn't belong here." The rancher said nothing. "Strange, isn't it?" The sheriff went on. "A girl with no name worth speaking, carrying a baby nobody remembers. Strange she'd land on your porch." The rancher's voice was low. "You come here to gossip?" The sheriff grinned. "I come here to ask questions." The girl whispered, "Don't." Her voice was sharp, desperate, but the rancher didn't move. The sheriff leaned further, hat shadowing his eyes. "Whose child is it?" The girl's breath caught. She opened her mouth, then shut it tight again. The rancher stepped half a pace forward, blocking the sheriff's view. "Not yours to ask," the rancher said. The sheriff tilted his head. "Not yours to answer." The baby whimpered, small at first, then louder. The sound cut through the space between them. The sheriff's grin widened. Well, she's real then." The girl hushed the child, rocking faster. "Please stop," she whispered. The sheriff's gaze shifted past the rancher again. "How old? A few weeks? A month? Don't matter. What matters is who put her in your arms." The rancher's voice dropped lower. "Get off my porch. Not until I get what I came for. You won't." The sheriff tapped his badge with one finger. "This says I will." The rancher didn't move. His silence stretched long enough to make the sheriff's grin falter. "You always were stubborn," the sheriff muttered. "Cost you before, might cost you again." The girl stood, clutching the baby. "Don't let him in." The sheriff's eyes found hers over the rancher's shoulder. "There she is." His smile turned cold. "You planning to hide forever, girl?" She shook her head, but words wouldn't come. "Where's the father?" he asked. The rancher cut in. "Not here. Not here or never was." The rancher's hands curled to fists. "Doesn't matter. It matters to me." The baby began crying harder, sharp and sudden. The sound filled the room, bouncing off the walls. The girl pressed her lips to the child's head, murmuring soft nonsense. The sheriff chuckled low. "That cry'll carry. Folks will hear. Folks will ask." "Folks don't need answers," the rancher said. "Then why's she hiding?" The girl snapped, voice breaking. "Because you don't stop." The sheriff blinked. Her outburst caught him off guard. She stepped closer to the rancher's back, the child wailing against her chest. "You think questions don't hurt, but they do. You think badges make you right, but they don't. We don't owe you a thing." The sheriff studied her, his grin gone. "Careful," he said. "Your mouth might put you in the ground." The rancher's voice came like a growl. "That's enough." The sheriff tilted his head, considering him. "So you'd take her side, a girl you don't even know?" The rancher didn't flinch. "She's here. That's enough." Silence pressed heavy again. Only the baby's cry cut through, high and raw. Finally the sheriff stepped back. His boots thudded against the porch. "You'll regret it," he said. "Both of you." The rancher stayed in the doorway, unmoving, until the sheriff's figure disappeared into the dark. The echo of spurs faded, but the air still carried the weight of his presence. The girl sagged against the table, tears streaming down her face. The child's cries slowed into hiccups. "He'll come back," she whispered. The rancher shut the door, the latch clicking into place. He turned, face carved with shadow. "I know." She clutched the baby tighter. "What do we do?" His eyes fixed on the child. He didn't answer right away. Finally his voice came quiet, rough. "We keep her safe." She nodded, though her body shook. "And when he comes again, then I'll be here." She looked at him, searching his face for more. But there was nothing else, only silence. The lamp flickered once, shadows stretching long. The girl sat back in her chair, rocking the baby slow. The rancher stayed by the door, shoulders squared, waiting in the silence the sheriff had left behind. The morning came without color. The girl stepped outside with the bucket, the baby bundled against her chest. The air was sharp, quiet, except for the creak of the rope as she lowered the bucket into the well. She listened to the splash, but what followed was wrong. A hollow echo, metal against stone. She froze, leaning over the rim, her breath misting into the dark shaft. She pulled the rope, slow and cautious. The bucket rose heavy, sloshing with water. But beneath the sound of water was something else, something shifting dull against the wood. She set the bucket down, frowning. Her hand reached in, fishing past the cold water. Her fingers brushed fabric, soaked and stiff. She gasped and pulled back. The child stirred, giving a soft cry. The rancher's voice came from behind her. "What is it?" She spun, clutching the baby closer. "There's something in there." He stepped forward, boots crunching against the dirt, and peered into the bucket. His brow furrowed. Without a word, he grabbed the rope, lowering the bucket again. Then he lit the lantern hanging by the post, flame flickering low in the wind. The girl shifted uneasily. "Don't." He ignored her. He tied the lantern to the rope and lowered it down into the shaft. The glow vanished into darkness until it settled near the bottom. Shadows twisted up the stone walls. "See it?" she asked, whispering. The rancher pulled the rope back, slow and steady. The lantern rose with water dripping off its sides, and something else came with it. Cloth, dark and rotted, wrapped tight around a shape. He pulled it free, set it on the ground. The girl swallowed hard. The cloth was stained, stiff with age. He unwrapped it piece by piece. Inside lay a badge, rusted but still sharp at the edges. Neither of them spoke. The child whimpered again. The girl rocked her gently, eyes locked on the badge. Her voice finally broke the silence. "Whose was it?" The rancher didn't answer. She pressed. "Do you know?" He stared at the metal, jaw tight, breath low. She knelt closer, trembling. "Tell me." His voice came rough, quiet. "Not mine." Her eyes darted to him, searching his face for more. "Then whose?" "Doesn't matter." "Yes, it does." He wrapped the cloth back around the badge and set it on the ground like it was nothing but stone. His hands lingered there, fingers digging into the dirt. The girl's voice shook. Someone put it down there. Someone wanted it gone. "Leave it," he said. She held the child tighter. "Why would a sheriff's badge be buried in your well?" His eyes lifted, sharp and cold. "I said, leave it." The girl recoiled at the tone, lips trembling. She looked at the well, at the lantern flickering faintly by the rope. "It doesn't sound empty anymore." He stood, towering over her. "Nothing's empty out here. Not wells, not houses, not people." The Bobby whimpered again, louder this time, like the sound itself unsettled her. The girl rocked back and forth, whispering softly, though her own voice was unsteady. "Was it his?" she asked, eyes fixed on the cloth. The rancher didn't move. "The sheriff's?" His silence answered her. She shook her head. If it was his, why hide it here? Why not keep it on his chest? He grabbed the lantern, lifted it away from the ground, and blew out the flame. Darkness pressed closer around them. He picked up the cloth-wrapped badge and walked to the porch. The girl followed, hesitant steps behind him. "You're not going to explain?" He didn't answer. "You expect me to just pretend I didn't see it?" He turned, eyes catching what little light remained. "Pretend? You were the one who wanted that." Her breath caught. "That's not the same." "It's close enough." She looked down at the child, brushing a finger across her cheek. "What happens if he comes back asking questions?" "Then you don't answer." "And if they're the wrong questions?" "Doesn't matter." "Yes, it does." She raised her voice, sharp, breaking. "Because one day he won't just ask, he'll take." The rancher stepped closer. So close she could feel the heat of his silence press against her. He held the cloth bundle between them. "This stays here." She shook her head. "What if he already knows?" He gritted his teeth. Then let him come for it. The baby cried again, sharp and loud. The sound cut through the night, through the dirt and the dark and the air itself. The girl hushed quickly, rocking faster. "You don't understand," she said, voice cracking. "He's not just asking, he's waiting." The rancher's eyes locked on hers, hard and unyielding. "So am I." The girl swallowed, trembling. The child quieted, hiccuping softly against her chest. She finally looked away, staring at the well. Its mouth was dark, the rope swaying slightly in the wind. "Not empty," she whispered again. The rancher turned, carried the bundle inside, and set it beneath the table. He didn't look back at her when he said, "Nothing out here ever is." The night pressed heavy on the cabin walls. The girl moved quietly, rocking the baby near the fire when she heard a creak outside. Slow, steady, too measured to be wind. She froze, straining to listen. The baby stirred, tiny fists stretching against the blanket. She shifted to hush her, eyes darting to the window. Something moved in the yard. A shadow swayed back and forth against the barn. She stood edging closer to the glass. That's when she saw it. Thick rope hanging from the oak branch, swinging gently as if someone had just stepped away. Her breath caught. "It wasn't there yesterday," she whispered. The rancher rose from his chair without hesitation. He opened the door, stepping into the cold. She followed to the threshold, clutching the baby close. The rope swung slow, creaking against the bark. The rancher walked across the yard, boots crunching against the dirt. He grabbed the rope, pulled it taut, then drew his knife and sliced it clean. The rope dropped heavy onto the ground. He stood there for a moment, holding the cut end in his hand like it meant something more than cord. The girl whispered again, softer this time. It wasn't there. He didn't answer. He carried the rope back toward the barn, tossed it into the shadows, and turned to face her. The baby let out a soft coo, high and sweet against the silence. The sound cut sharper than any scream. "They're watching," the girl said. The rancher's eyes stayed on her. He didn't nod, didn't shake his head. He just stood there, silent. His lack of denial was answer enough. She shifted the child higher against her chest. "Why here? Why us?" He moved past her, stepping back into the cabin, closing the door behind him. He dropped the knife onto the table. It clattered against the wood. "Don't shut me out," she said, following. "If you know who did it, tell me." He lowered himself into the chair again, elbows on the table, eyes fixed on the dying fire. "Say something," she pushed. "They want fear," he said finally. Her voice rose. "And you'll give it to them by saying nothing?" "They want me to speak. That's why I won't." She stared at him, rocking the baby, her eyes shining with anger. "You think silence will protect us? It's the only thing I've got left." The baby whimpered, unsettled. She shushed quickly, swaying back and forth. "They left it like a warning. Don't you see?" "I see," he said. "Then do something." "I did." She laughed bitterly. "You cut down a rope, that's all. That's all it takes tonight." She shook her head, voice trembling. "You don't understand. They'll come again. They won't stop at rope." The rancher's gaze finally lifted to her, steady and cold. "Then let them come." The baby cried louder now, sharp and piercing. She bounced her gently, pressing her cheek to the child's head, whispering fragments of comfort. "You can't pretend it's nothing," she said. "I'm not pretending." "Then what are you doing?" "Waiting. For what?" His silence stretched long, heavy. The only sound was the baby's ragged hiccups as her cries softened. The girl stared at him, fear in her eyes. "You've seen this before, haven't you?" He didn't answer. "You know who put it there." He looked down at his hands. "Doesn't matter." "It does," she said, her voice breaking, "because if it's him, he won't stop until he gets what he came for." The rancher clenched his fists, knuckles white. "I said it doesn't matter." She sat across from him, the baby quieting against her chest. "Then you're lying to yourself, and to me." His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. She leaned closer, whispering low, sharp. "You're scared, too." He looked up, eyes hard. "Scared men talk. I don't." Her lips pressed tight. She rocked the baby slowly, the fire casting shadows across her face. The rope outside still swayed in her mind, back and forth, back and forth. After a long silence, she whispered, "It looked like it was waiting for someone." The rancher's eyes narrowed, or it already had someone. She froze. He leaned back in the chair, shadows cutting across his face. "Ropes don't hang themselves." The girl shivered. The baby gave a soft sigh, sinking deeper into sleep. "What if it was meant for me?" she asked, voice trembling. He stared at her. "It wasn't?" "You don't know that." "I do." Her breath caught. "Then it was meant for you." He didn't argue. His silence said enough. The girl's voice cracked. "Why? Why would they come for you?" His hand pressed against the table, rough fingers tracing the grain. "Because I never gave them what they wanted." Her voice rose again. "And now they'll take it." He stood, walked to the window, and pulled back the curtain just enough to look out. The yard was empty, but the oak loomed tall, the severed rope coiled at its roots like a snake. "They're not gone," he said quietly. Her chest tightened. "Then what do we do?" He let the curtain fall back into place. "We wait." The girl shook her head, angry tears welling. "Waiting isn't protection. It's survival." She hugged the baby closer, her breath shuddering. "What if survival isn't enough?" He turned, eyes on the child. "Then we give her more." Her gaze followed his, landing on the small face half hidden in the blanket. She kissed her softly, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. The rancher walked back to the table, pulled the knife toward him, and set it beside the lantern. He didn't sit down this time. He just stood there, tall and unyielding, eyes fixed on the door. The girl rocked in silence. The baby cooed once more, high and innocent. The sound filled the cabin, soft but cutting deep. "They're watching," she said again, quieter this time. The rancher didn't deny it. The smell came first, sharp, biting, heavy with gasoline. The girl woke with a start, the baby squirming against her chest. She sat up fast, listening. Outside, something hissed. Then a crackle. She turned her head and saw the glow through the window, orange licking against the dark. "Fire," she whispered. The rancher was already moving. He grabbed his boots, shoved them on, and flung the door wide. Heat struck them both. Flames clawed at the porch boards, sparks climbing the walls. The girl clutched the child tighter, stumbling back into the corner. The rancher stomped hard, kicking dirt across the flames. His boots ground against the wood, scattering embers. He cursed low, swung the water bucket from the corner, and dumped it fast. Steam hissed, smoke rising thick. The girl coughed, rocking the baby, eyes wide with terror. Who sent them? The rancher didn't look up. He kicked dirt again, smothering a stubborn flame. Then straightened. His face was hard, eyes glinting in the firelight. "Say men who'll come again." The words landed like a stone in the room. The girl shook her head. Why us? He didn't answer. He bent low, pressing his palm flat against the charred board, checking for heat. The wood was blackened but not broken. He stood slow, shoulders stiff. They wanted to scare us, she said. He shook his head. They wanted to burn us out. The baby whimpered, tiny fists pressing against her chest. She rocked her, whispering comfort. They'll come back, she said. You know they will. The rancher walked back into the cabin, boots leaving black streaks across the floor. He set the empty bucket down, leaned his weight on the table. His breathing was heavy, measured, as if forcing himself calm. The girl followed, clutching the child. Her voice was sharp, ragged. What do they want from you? Not from me. Then from me? His silence stretched. She shook her head, anger pushing past her fear. Say it. Just say what you know. He looked at her then, eyes hard. They don't want truth. They want power. That badge, she whispered. It was theirs, wasn't it? His jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Her voice rose. You think silence will save us, but it won't. They'll burn this house to the ground, and us with it. Not tonight, he said. The fire outside hissed, dying slow. The smell of gasoline clung to the air, sharp and choking. She rocked the baby, eyes darting to the door as if the sheriff himself might appear there. The rancher sat down, elbows on his knees, head bent. His voice came low, steady. This house stood before them. It'll stand after. Not if they burn it. Then we build again. Her laugh was bitter, hollow. You think we'll live long enough to rebuild? He didn't answer. The baby cried harder, unsettled by the smoke. She rocked her fast, pressing her lips to the child's head. She doesn't deserve this. His eyes flicked to the baby, then back to the floor. None of us do. The girl stepped closer, voice sharp. So stop letting it happen. His gaze lifted, meeting hers. You think cutting a rope stopped them? You think kicking dirt saved us? It only bought us time. Then fight back. I already am. No, she snapped. You're waiting. There's a difference. The rancher stood, towering over her. And what would you have me do? Her voice cracked. Anything but nothing. They stared at each other, the baby's cries filling the silence. Finally, the rancher turned, walked to the door, and stepped out onto the porch again. He scanned the yard, eyes sweeping the tree line, shoulders tight. The girl followed to the threshold, baby in her arms. You see them? He shook his head. They're close, I can feel it. He didn't deny it. The rope from the night before still lay coiled near the barn, dark against the dirt. Smoke drifted from the porch, curling into the sky. The flames were gone, but the threat lingered like a shadow. The girl's voice dropped low. They're trying to push us out. Not out, he said. Down. Her breath caught. Down where? He didn't answer. The baby hiccuped, soft and uneven. The girl kissed her forehead, whispering, Hush, it's all right. But her own voice trembled. The rancher turned back toward the house. Go inside, get her warm. She shook her head. I'm not leaving you out here alone. You already have. The words hit hard. She blinked, stunned. What do you mean? He didn't repeat it. Her voice rose, desperate. I'm here now. Isn't that enough? His silence pressed between them like stone. The baby gave a small laugh then, sudden and strange in the heavy air. It startled them both. The girl clutched her tighter, whispering, Don't laugh at fire, little one. The rancher's eyes lingered on the child. His voice came rough. She doesn't know what it means yet. She will, the girl said. Soon enough. He nodded once, slow. They stood there a long while, the yard empty but alive with unseen eyes. The fire was out, but the smell of smoke stayed thick, the reminder of what had nearly been. Finally, the rancher spoke. They won't stop here. She swallowed hard. Then what do we do? He stepped past her into the house, closed the door behind them, and latched it firm. We wait, he said. She shook her head. That's not enough. It's all we have. She sat by the fire, rocking the baby, tears cutting down her cheeks. The child breathed soft against her chest, small and unaware. The rancher stayed by the door, knife in hand, shoulders squared. His silence was heavy, but it was also final. The fire hadn't spread tonight. But tomorrow was already waiting. Morning light crept in through the cracks, pale and thin. The girl moved quietly through the kitchen, the baby strapped against her chest in a worn sling. She reached for the flour sack, nearly empty, and dragged it across the table. When she tipped it, only dust spilled out. She opened the cupboard next, digging past jars and tins. Her hand knocked over an old sugar tin, dented and dull. It hit the floor with a hollow clang, the lid popping loose. She bent quickly, the baby stirring at the noise. Something fluttered out, a folded piece of paper, yellowed at the edges. She froze. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. The rancher's voice came from behind her. "What is it?" She clutched the letter, startled. It fell. He stepped closer. From where? The tin. He frowned, glancing at it on the floor. Wasn't meant for you. Her throat tightened. She unfolded the paper slowly. The ink was faded, but still sharp enough to read. Don't lie if they come. But don't give them everything. Some things belong to silence. She read it again, voice barely above a whisper. Don't lie if they come, but don't give them everything. Some things belong to silence. The rancher's face darkened, her eyes lifted to him. Whose are? He didn't answer. Was it your wife? She pressed. His jaw worked, but no words came. Was it? He walked past her, bent down, and picked up the tin. He set it back on the shelf as if the letter hadn't been found. You can't just ignore this, she said, voice shaking. He straightened, facing her. I can. Her anger flared. You expect me to pretend again? Like the well, like the rope, like the fire? His voice came low, measured. Pretending keeps us alive. She held the baby tighter, rocking slightly. Alive doesn't mean safe. It means breathing, he said. The baby whimpered, sensing her tension. She hushed softly, eyes still locked on him. So was your wife. His silence answered for him. What happened to her? She asked. He didn't move. Her voice cracked. Did they take her? His eyes flicked to the door, then back to her. Don't ask questions you don't want answered. I do want answers, she snapped, because they're already circling us, and I'm tired of not knowing why. He stepped closer, towering over her. You think knowing makes it easier? It doesn't. It makes it worse. She stood her ground, though her knees shook. Worse than a rope? Worse than fire? He didn't blink. Then what did you lose? She whispered. What did silence cost you? His mouth opened, then closed again. He turned away, walking back to the table. He sat heavily, elbows on the wood, head bowed. The girl unfolded the letter again, staring at the words. Don't lie if they come, but don't give them everything. What does that mean? It means what it says. No, it means more. He didn't look up. It means some truths kill faster than lies. Her chest tightened. Whose truth? Mine. The baby let out a sharp cry. Breaking the air between them, she bounced her gently, whispering comfort, though her own voice shook. She stared at him, tears filling her eyes. If she was your wife, she knew what was coming. His hands clenched on the table. She wrote this for you, she continued. Not for me, for you. He stayed silent, but his shoulders trembled. The girl's voice softened. What did you keep from them? His eyes lifted, finally meeting hers. Enough. Enough to make them hate you. Enough to keep them coming. Her breath hitched. She rocked the baby slower, whispering, "Then we'll never be safe." He didn't deny it. The cabin was quiet again, save for the baby's small whimpers and the faint groan of the wind outside. The girl folded the letter carefully, holding it in her hand as though it were fragile. She whispered, "R. That was her name?" He looked away. Her tears slipped free. "She's gone, isn't she?" He nodded once, almost imperceptible. The girl sat heavily in the chair across from him, the letter resting on the table between them. "Then her silence is yours now, and you'd rather bury it than speak it." He leaned back, shadows cutting across his face. "You think words will change what's coming?" Her eyes burned. "Maybe not. But silence hasn't saved you either." The bobby hiccuped, then sighed, drifting back toward sleep. The girl wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand, voice breaking. "What if they take me too?" His voice came rough, steady. "Then I'll take them first." She stared at him, searching his face for more. But there was nothing else, only silence, heavy and unyielding. She lowered her eyes to the letter again, reading the words one last time. "Don't lie if they come, but don't give them everything." Her whisper carried through the dim room. Some things belong to silence. The rancher's eyes closed for a moment, as if the weight of the words pressed harder than fire or rope. When he opened them, the silence was thicker than before. The letter stayed on the table, between them both, a truth neither of them could escape. The knock didn't come this time. The door swung open with force, rattling against the wall. The sheriff stepped inside, hat low, pistol raised. His eyes scanned the room, hard and unblinking. The girl froze where she stood, the baby in her arms. The rancher didn't flinch. He sat at the table, his rifle lying across it. The barrel was pointed toward the sheriff, but the chamber was empty. The sheriff smirked. "Won't fire?" The rancher's voice was low. "Don't need it to." The sheriff took a step closer, boots heavy against the floorboards. "Bluffing me?" The rancher didn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on the sheriff, steady, unyielding. The baby whimpered. The girl rocked her gently, whispering comfort, though her own hands shook. She stepped forward, putting herself between the men. The sheriff tilted his head, amused. "Look at that. She thinks she can stop me." The girl's voice cracked. "You won't touch her." His grin widened. "Won't I?" The rancher's hand slid across the table, steady on the rifle. "You'd be dead before you tried." The sheriff chuckled, with an empty gun. The rancher's eyes narrowed. "Don't take much to kill a man. Sometimes only silence." The sheriff studied him, grin fading. "Always the quiet one. Always thought silence made you strong, but I know better." "Do you?" the rancher asked. "I know silence is just fear dressed up, and fear makes men weak." The girl shook her head. "You don't know anything." The sheriff's eyes cut to her. "I know you don't belong here, and neither does that child." The baby cried louder, sharp and sudden. The girl rocked her faster, her own voice rising. "She belongs with me." The sheriff raised his pistol higher. Not for long. The rancher's voice dropped to a growl. Put it down. Or what? Or you'll find out what silence can do. The sheriff laughed once, harsh. You think you scare me? The rancher stood, slow and deliberate, his hands still resting on the rifle. He loomed taller now, his silence pressing heavier than words. The sheriff's grin faltered. Empty gun, rancher. You can't bluff forever. Not bluffing, the rancher said. The girl stepped closer, trembling but firm, the baby pressed to her chest. If you fire that gun, you'll kill more than us. You'll kill yourself. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. Big words? Truth, she said. He barked a laugh. Truth don't matter out here. The rancher's voice cut through. That's why you'll never have it? The sheriff shifted, uneasy. His pistol wavered for the first time. The girl saw it. She held tighter to the baby, her voice steadier now. Why are you here? What do you want? The sheriff sneered. I want what's mine. Nothing here is yours, the rancher said. The sheriff's face hardened. Everything here is mine. Always was. Always will be. The rancher shook his head. Not anymore. The silence that followed was sharp, crackling. The baby whimpered again, the sound filling the room. The sheriff's grip tightened on his pistol. You'll regret crossing me. The rancher leaned forward slightly, voice low, calm. Then make me. For a long moment, no one moved. The sheriff's finger hovered near the trigger. The rancher's hand stayed firm on the empty rifle. The girl stood between them, her body trembling but her eyes unbroken. Finally, the sheriff lowered his pistol an inch. His smile returned, cold and cruel. Not tonight, but soon. He stepped back toward the door. His eyes lingered on the girl, then the child. Won't be long now. The rancher didn't move. His silence was harder than stone. The sheriff tipped his hat mockingly, then stepped out into the night. The door creaked shut behind him. The girl collapsed into the chair, clutching the baby, her chest heaving. He'll come back. The rancher sat slowly, his hand falling away from the rifle. I know. Her voice cracked. What then? His eyes stayed on the door. Then it won't matter if it fires. She looked at him, searching his face, but there was nothing more, only silence, heavy, unbroken, and final. The baby sighed softly, drifting into uneasy sleep. The girl rocked her, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. The rancher leaned back, shadows deep across his face. The rifle lay empty on the table, but his silence filled the room like loaded rounds. The night stretched on. Outside, the sheriff's footsteps had long faded, but the echo of his threat remained, sharp as the crack of a gun that hadn't fired yet. The morning light stretched pale across the porch, cutting through smoke-stained air. The girl opened the door with the baby balanced on her hip, eyes still rimmed red from the night before. At first she saw nothing, just the yard, quiet and still. Then her breath caught. A badge lay at the threshold, not rusted, not broken, polished, gleaming, as if scrubbed by careful hands. Its shine threw back the morning light like a mirror. She staggered a step back, clutching the babel tighter. Her whisper cut the silence. He's closer than before. The rancher stepped behind her. His shadow fell across the badge. He didn't bend to pick it up. He only stared, jaw tightening, breath slow and heavy. This isn't over, he said. Her eyes flicked to him, wide and desperate. Then when does it end? His voice came low, certain. It never was? The baby let out a laugh then, loud, sharp, too sudden for the heavy air. It echoed against the porch boards, jarring in its innocence. The girl shivered. "Don't laugh at this," she whispered, rocking the child. "Don't laugh." The rancher finally crouched, his hand hovering over the badge before touching it. He lifted it slowly, the shine catching in his eyes. His face hardened. "It's not the same one," she said quickly. "Not the one from the well." He nodded once. "No." Her voice trembled. "Then where did it come from?" He turned the badge in his hand, the metal flawless, edges sharp. "From him." She hugged the baby close. "He's toying with us." "Always has," the rancher muttered. The baby cooed again, reaching a small hand toward the gleam. The girl turned away sharply, shielding her. "Don't let her touch it." The rancher set the badge on the porch rail, the sun bouncing off it. He stared at it long, then spoke. "He wants me to wear it." She shook her head fast. "No, don't." "That's the point," he said. Her eyes burned. "What does it mean?" "It means he's coming soon." The baby fussed, small whimpers building. She rocked her gently, voice breaking. "I can't live like this. Every rope, every fire, every shadow. I can't." "You already are," he said. She stared at him, furious. "Why don't you fight him?" His eyes stayed locked on the badge. "Because he fights with silence, same as me." "Then how does it end?" He didn't answer. She stepped closer, shaking. "Tell me the truth. Is this about R?" The rancher's shoulders stiffened. She knew, didn't she? That's why she wrote the letter. He said nothing. Her tears slipped free. She knew he'd never stop. The rancher's jaw tightened, and she was right. The girl looked down at the baby, brushing her cheek with trembling fingers. "Then we're next." The rancher finally turned to her, eyes sharp. "Not if I can help it." The baby laughed again, sudden and loud, startling them both. The sound didn't carry joy. It carried unease, cutting through the still air like a knife. The girl hushed quickly. "She doesn't understand." "She understands enough," the rancher said. The porch boards creaked beneath his weight as he stood. He left the badge where it sat, gleaming in the light. "Leave it," she pleaded. "I will," he said, "but it won't leave us." They moved back inside. The girl set the baby down in the cradle, rocking it gently, eyes still darting toward the door. The rancher sat at the table, hands clenched, gaze fixed on the badge outside. The girl whispered, almost to herself, "He's marking us." The rancher's voice was steady. He already did. Her head snapped toward him. "When?" "The moment you asked me to be her papa." Her throat closed. "You mean he's been waiting for that?" The rancher cut in. "Waiting for me to take her in." The baby fussed again, restless. The girl lifted her, pacing the floor. "Then we were doomed from the start." He shook his head. "Not doomed. Chosen." She flinched. "That's worse." The silence grew heavier. Outside, the badge caught the sun again, the glint flashing through the crack in the door. The girl turned sharply, voice trembling. "If he comes tonight, what then?" The rancher's voice was cold. "Then tonight ends different." She stopped pacing, clutching the baby. "Different how?" "You'll see." Her breath caught. "You already know." "I don't need to know," he said. "I just need to be ready." The baby yawned, small and innocent, her tiny fingers curling around the girl's sleeve. The girl kissed her forehead, whispering, "Don't look at that badge." The rancher leaned forward, elbows on the table, his silence as sharp as the shine outside. For a long while, neither spoke. The cabin was filled only with the baby's soft breaths and the faint sound of wind against the walls. Finally the girl whispered, It feels like he's already inside. The rancher's eyes lifted, locking with hers. That's the point. The baby gave a final laugh, sudden and eerie in the stillness. The girl shivered, holding her tighter. The rancher didn't look away from the door. The badge outside gleamed bright, brighter than any morning sun should allow, and both of them knew the shine was not a warning. It was a promise. The rancher's shovel cut into dry earth behind the barn. He worked in silence, his weight steady with each strike, sweat running down his neck despite the cool air. The girl stood nearby, rocking the baby on her hip, watching as if the ground itself might speak. "Why here?" she asked softly. The rancher didn't answer. He kept digging, his jaw tight, his silence heavier than words. The shovel struck something hard. He froze, crouched down, and brushed the dirt with his rough hands. A small glint surfaced through the dust. The girl stepped closer, eyes wide. "What is it?" He lifted it out slowly. A ring, tarnished but whole, with a crest etched deep into its surface. The design was old, worn, but still sharp enough to see. He turned it over in his hand, staring at it long. The girl leaned closer, the baby squirming against her chest. She gasped. "I know that." His eyes flicked to hers. She held her breath. "He gave this to my mother." The rancher stiffened. Her voice broke as she continued. "She said it was all he left her with, said it meant something, but she never told me what." The baby fussed, reaching a tiny hand toward the ring. The girl rocked her quickly, eyes locked on the rancher's face. "Why is it buried here?" He didn't answer. His hand shook faintly as he held the ring, dirt falling away from it, grain by grain. "Tell me," she demanded. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was rough, low. "It still does." Her breath caught. "What does it mean?" He stared at the crest, thumb brushing across it. "It means blood." The girl's knees weakened. "Whose?" His silence stretched too long. "Whose?" she pressed, voice trembling. He looked at her finally, his eyes tired, hollow. "Mine." The baby whimpered, sensing the weight in the air. The girl's voice shook. "Then you gave it to her." He nodded once. Her tears spilled fast. "You were her father. You were mine." The rancher's jaw clenched. His voice broke. Not in the way that mattered. Her body shook. "You left her with nothing but a ring, nothing but silence." He looked down at the dirt. "I left her with the truth." "She said it meant something," the girl whispered. "Now I know it meant you." The rancher sank back onto the ground, the ring heavy in his palm. His silence was no longer unyielding. It was broken, cracked, open. The girl's tears streamed as she rocked the baby. "And now I've brought her back to you, without even knowing." His shoulders trembled. "I never wanted this." "But it found you anyway," she said. The baby let out a small cry, sharp and thin. The girl hushed her, pressing her lips to the child's head. She stared at the rancher, her voice softer now. "You're her blood too." He shook his head. "Blood doesn't make a father." Her grip on the baby tightened. "Then what does?" His eyes met hers, weary and raw, saying yes. The words hung in the air, heavy, final. The girl sank to her knees in the dirt across from him, the ring still between them. She whispered, "Then say it again." His hands closed around the ring, fingers trembling. He looked at the baby, then at her. His silence stretched, but this time it carried something new. Finally his voice cracked as he spoke. "Yes." The girl broke into sobs, holding the child close. The baby's cries softened, fading into small breaths. The rancher set the ring carefully on the dirt between them. His voice was hoarse. She deserves more than silence. The girl wiped her tears, whispering, "Then give her more." The wind shifted, carrying dust across the yard. The oak tree stood still, its branches bare, the severed rope still coiled at its roots. The morning light fell across the barn, across the dirt, across the ring that glinted faintly. The rancher pushed the dirt back with his hands, burying the empty hole again, but the ring stayed above, gleaming in the sun. The girl touched it once, brushing the crest with her finger. She whispered, "It still does." The rancher closed his eyes. For the first time, his silence felt less like a wall and more like a wound, healing slow. The baby gave a small laugh, soft and strange in the still air. The girl rocked her gently, voice steady. "You'll know who you are, even if it breaks us." The rancher rose to his feet, shadows long behind him. His eyes lingered on the ring, then the child, then the horizon. His voice came low, certain. "This ends tonight." The girl looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" His silence was answer enough. Night pressed heavy, the fire low in the hearth. The girl sat with the baby in her lap, rocking slow, her eyes darting to the door every few seconds. The rancher stood near the table, the ring in his hand, turning it over and over, the crest flashing in the firelight. His silence was no longer empty. It carried resolve. Bootsteps broke the quiet, slow, steady, deliberate. Then the door creaked open without a knock. The sheriff stepped inside alone. A coil of rope hung from one hand, a Bible tucked under his other arm. His hat shadowed his face, but the gleam in his eyes cut through the dark. The girl gasped, clutching the baby tighter. The rancher didn't move. He stared at the sheriff, jaw tight, shoulders squared. The sheriff smirked. "Evening." No reply. He lifted the rope slightly. "Came to finish what should have been finished long ago." The rancher's voice was low. "Then finish it outside." The sheriff shook his head. "Not outside, in here, where she can hear it." His eyes shifted to the girl. "And where that child can learn what happens to thieves." "She's not a thief," the girl snapped. The sheriff's grin widened. "She's not a mother either. That child ain't hers to keep." The baby whimpered, her small cry filling the silence. The girl rocked her quickly, whispering comfort, though her voice shook. "She's mine." The sheriff stepped closer, laying the Bible on the table with a heavy thud. "Not by blood." The rancher moved then, slow but deliberate, stepping between the sheriff and the girl. The ring in his hand caught the firelight. He raised it slightly, letting the gleam speak before his voice did. "Then neither is your silence." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you don't hold the truth anymore." The sheriff's lip curled. "Truth don't matter out here. Power does, and I've still got it." The rancher's silence stretched, pressing hard. Then his voice came low, final. "Not tonight." The sheriff's pistol hand twitched, but he hadn't drawn it. Not yet. "You gonna shoot me with that empty gun?" The rancher's stare didn't falter. "Don't need a gun." The girl stood slowly, trembling but firm. The baby clutched tight. Her voice shook, but it didn't break. "You'll leave us be." The sheriff barked a laugh. "Leave you? You think rope don't tighten just because you ask?" Her eyes locked on him, unblinking. "You won't take her." The sheriff stepped forward, close now, his shadow long against the wall. "And who's gonna stop me? Him? He hides behind silence, always has." The rancher stepped forward, close enough that the firelight cut across both their faces. His voice was steady. Not hiding anymore. The sheriff's grin faltered. The girl whispered, "Don't." Neither man looked at her. The sheriff's grip tightened on the rope. "You think a ring makes you strong?" The rancher raised it higher. "It makes me more than you." The sheriff's jaw clenched. "That ring was mine to take, and you buried it," the rancher said. His silence pressed so hard that the sheriff's hand shook slightly. He covered it by slamming the rope onto the table. The coil thudded against the wood, the end trailing across the floor like a snake. "This is how it ends," the sheriff said. The rancher's voice was calm. "You're right." The girl shifted, the baby crying now, sharp and insistent. She stepped closer, standing behind the rancher, her body shaking but her eyes unbroken. The sheriff pointed to the child. "She ain't yours?" "Never was." The rancher's voice came like steel. "She is now." The room fell silent except for the baby's cry. The fire popped once, sparks jumping into the dark. The sheriff sneered. "Saying don't make it true." The rancher's eyes hardened. "Then listen." He turned slightly, just enough so the girl could see him. His voice cracked, raw and final. "I'm her papa." Her breath caught. The baby stilled against her chest, as if the words themselves hushed her. The sheriff's face twisted. "You think claiming her makes you a father?" The rancher stepped forward, shadows burning across his face. "It makes me more than you'll ever be." The sheriff's eyes flickered. Doubt crept in, sharp and sudden. He looked at the girl, then the child, then back at the man before him. "You'll regret it," he muttered. "Maybe," the rancher said, "but not tonight." The sheriff's hand twitched near his pistol again. His breath came hard, uneven, but he didn't draw. He grabbed the rope from the table, snatched the Bible back under his arm, and stepped toward the door. His voice was bitter. "This ain't over." The rancher didn't move. "It already is." The sheriff froze, then slammed the door behind him. His footsteps echoed across the porch, fading into the night. The girl collapsed into the chair, tears streaming down her face. The baby gave a soft cry, then quieted. The rancher stood in the center of the room, the ring still in his hand. He looked at the child, then at the girl, then back at the fire. The girl wiped her face, whispering, "You said it." He nodded once. She rocked the baby gently, whispering to her. "You heard him. He's your papa." The rancher closed his hand around the ring, the crest pressing into his skin. His silence now carried weight, not of hiding, but of choice. The girl didn't ask again if he was her father. She didn't need to. His answer had already stayed, heavy and final. The baby's name lingered in the room, unspoken but certain, carried in the firelight, in the silence, in the ring that still shone in his hand. The night outside was dark, but inside the cabin something had shifted, and it would not be taken back.